Welcome to lesson number 15 on mastering positional play, mastering positional techniques, and mastering your strategical understanding. And today we're going to be taking a look at bishops versus knights. Usually that's a very interesting minor pieces battle, and let's take a look at the same position but three different scenarios. And the first one is called closing the center. So after move like d5, the center is closed. White had two bishops. They kind of killed the opportunity to fight for this long diagonal with this bishop. And now once the center is closed and when your opponent has two bishops, it would be a great idea to try and trade one of the bishops off the board. And in the following example, black would actually win from this trade because they will have a knight against this bishop on f3, which is pointing towards, as we looked at the previous lesson, and it's more like a tall pawn example. Like if you watch the previous lesson, you will understand it. Basically, this knight will be superior to this bishop on f3. Now let's take a look at the next example where white will actually open up this position. Same position, but white are trying to do and play it in a different way. So they play d takes f5. Now black are trying to go d takes f5, and their idea is to play knight c6, knight d4, and get the square to the knight. D takes f5 is a very logical decision, but now white play queen b3, immediately attacking the pawn on b7. Pawn goes to b6, rook d1, attacking the queen on d8, queen goes to e7, bishop g4. Now this knight is not able to go to d7, knight c6 is one of the tries. Black go bishop g5, once again trying to trade this bishop off the board, but now white break through by playing c5, bishop d3, and f takes e3. And now this bishop is superior to this knight. White pieces are more active. f7 is a target, potentially bishop e2, bishop c4 is a strong attack as well. g6, queen c3, f6, rook d5, h5, bishop e2, and this bishop is slightly better than its opponent on b8. And now let's take a look at another example of the same position. Final minor piece battle. So after d takes f5, we analyzed d takes f5, we analyzed white's response with d5. Now d takes f5, bishop e5, attacking the opponent b2, c5, trying to break through bishop b2, rook b1, and then take on b7. That's all good. Knight c6, you take d6, queen d6, and transposition to the two bishops versus knight and bishop endgame. Rook goes to d1, rook d8, bishop e2, bishop e5, rook b1. Now bishop d4, trying to trade one of the bishops, bishop f4, bishop e5, and now we take knight f5, f4, and this center kind of gives white a slight edge. And then again, yes, knight is active as well. Knight c6, then knight goes to d4, but potentially that will overrun the draw, but both sides have chances to get a fight in this endgame. Now let's take a look at more examples of bishops versus knights. So now let's take a small exercise. So white have two bishops in the following position, but black have good central pawns. Bishop on g2 is watching towards emptiness. What's the best way for black to continue in the following position? And we kind of analyze that when your opponent has two bishops, you ideally want to get one of the bishops off the board. And what's the best way to try doing it in the following example? The best way is, of course, to play bishop h6. The problem is now white cannot escape a bishop trade. If they go bishop e5, we will go f6, and this trade is inevitable. Bishop goes to f4, inevitable. Oh my goodness. Bishop f4, then takes, and knight h4. So this bishop has to take on h6. Now we traded one of the bishops off the board, and the problem for white is they will either make a draw or potentially lose because their bishop is extremely bad in the following case, while we have a knight which potentially routes back to f5, and we're trying to fight in the center, maybe trade one pair of rooks. But yeah, the optimal result would be a draw, but black are definitely not risking a lot in this game. Let's get to the next example. Another interesting exercise for you here. We have a bishop and a knight against two knights. We have a closed center. And of course, we gotta find ways to improve our piece's position. I think the knight on c5 is actually in a great spot, but bishop on f6 is pointing towards e5 pawn. And there are better squares, better ways. And what's the ideal diagonal for this bishop? Because yeah, this is closed. I don't think we'll be able to open it in the near future. So there is another way to make this bishop work. And this exercise, I hope you're now trying to solve it. I'm showing you the solution right now. Pause the video if you haven't solved it yet. Try to find the past maneuvers. The idea is simple. You just gotta place your bishop on a different diagonal. And you play bishop d8. The idea is to play c6, bishop b6, and try to make bishop work on a7 g1 diagonal. Queen goes to e2, c6, rook d1, and for now d takes c6 is a serious threat, so bishop b6 doesn't really work, because after d takes c6 we don't really want to take with queen, because then we have d5, b5 weakened squares we want to recapture back with pawn. But now d6 pawn is under attack, so we first play bishop c7, and for now, bishop takes a defensive role, but we can play queen e7 next move to protect d6, and then go bishop b6, activating the bishop. Black, the position is still arguably equal, but black have better pieces in my opinion. Knight on c5 and bishop on b6 potentially create a lot of troubles for white, so I would say black are slightly better. Let's get to the next position. Pawns and squares often determine a minor piece's value. Most of the time you gotta remember, the pawns are not moving backwards, and let's say you move your pawn somewhere, let's say in the following case c2, c4, and you lose control. With this only move, you lose control over b4 and c4 square, where let's say knight can go, bishop can go. So you always gotta think, what's the best way to restrict the enemy's pieces? In the following example, the best way is of course to play c3. You defended b4, you defended d4, and using your only pawn, you managed to restrict the knight and also the bishop from entering the crucial squares in the following position. You know, yes, you still gotta train your brain to kind of memorize all these patterns, but most of the time you play these moves in the opening, because sometimes you also want to start early on, start restricting your enemy's pieces. So this should help you just to kind of understand what happens to bishops versus knight and bishop. You move your pawns, you always gotta think, okay, I move my pawn, but what can black do? Do I restrict my enemy's pieces? Like, would it be good in the long term? Like, those are the questions you gotta ask yourself when you move your pawns, when you try to create weaknesses in your opponent's camp. So it's all connected, and it just comes with experience. The more you practice those positions, the more you see, the more you analyze top gems level games. Even on gem level games, people make mistakes. So strategy is very hard. Sometimes, you know, you watch how engine plays out certain positions, you're like, man, this is just unbelievable level. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this bishops versus knights lesson. Once again, this was those were the examples from How to Reassess Your Chess by Jeremy Silman. Great book, suggest you all read it. Those are the examples taken from the book exactly. Not all of them, but because this is just like a huge book, I can't take all the examples and put it in the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next lesson next week. Bye bye.